Hi there. So I want to explain something. What is conscious conditioning? Conscious conditioning is basically a form of mind control. It's a form, it's a form of brainwashing. Um, so let me just start to explain what I mean by conscious conditioning. To condition someone is to get them to think in a certain way. Basically, we have two ways of thinking. There's a dialectical way of thinking and a didactic way of thinking. Um, Conscious conditioning falls more under dialectical ways of mind control and thinking. So what is it? Um, Basically, it's a felt sense experience. So we all have senses. The sense of sight, the sense of taste, the sense of smell, the sense of touch. It's not really those things in a sense. It's more of, of a different kind of felt sense experience. And so what it has to do with is it has to do with your feelings and with your emotions. For example, experiencing emotions beyond the narrative is a form of conscious conditioning. So when we experience emotions beyond the narrative, the narrative can be any number of different kinds of narratives. And so what that results in is it results in something called embodiment. I'll explain that in a second. So what is the goal of embodiment? We all have a physical body. We have a spirit that lives in our physical body, but embodiment doesn't necessarily have to do with our soul, and it doesn't have to do with our spirit. What is the goal of embodiment? This is, again, I'm explaining what is conscious conditioning. So the goal of embodiment is basically collective acceptance. I'll explain that. So when we practice embodiment, what is it? It's attending to emotional sensations and layers. That could seem very innocent because we all live in a physical body, and we all experience emotional sensations and layers of emotional sensations. That in a sense isn't intrinsically wrong, but it can lead to conscious conditioning when it's attached to a narrative in that sense. The result of attending to emotional sensations and layers is conscious conditioning. The goal of this kind of brainwashing is basically the deconstruction of the ego or the self. So we all have an identity. We all have, I am who I am, and I have a soul, and I'm made in the image of God. But embodiment wants to deconstruct your ego. And also the goal of embodiment is the deconstruction of the traditional narratives in society, and also including religious narratives and faith narratives. So I'm sure you could find videos about how people have deconstructed their faith. The way they do this is through conscious conditioning. Okay, so lastly, I'll make this video a bit short, but lastly, the question to ask you if you are practicing embodiment or conscious conditioning is, what exactly are you embodying, right? Because we all have a body. We don't need to embody ourselves. We're all in a soul. We all have a soul, which is in a spirit, which lives in a body. So I just wrote some things. Basically, the result of this kind of embodiment is basically an irrational mind, irrational ways of thinking, and irrational minds. So basically what you're embodying through this way of conscious conditioning, brainwashing, is basically a static reality. What that means is that things never change in your life. They constantly stay the same. So there's no real growth or progression in your life. Things just constantly remain the same all the time. Another thing that this embodies is a sense of nothingness. So basically, through this kind of conditioning, it creates an empty mind and also empty thinking, right? It also creates indecisiveness. There's a lot of indecisiveness with this kind of conditioning, right? And then the mantra, or what that means, is that nothingness has meaning, which is not true because nothingness has no meaning. But that's what this conditioning gets you to think, that nothingness has meaning, right? So another thing that it's embodying is an alternate reality, which basically what that means is that I create my own reality. I can even rewrite history. And the mantra, again, is nothingness has meaning, right? This is, again, conscious conditioning. Another thing it embodies is a messy life and messy choices. I'll just leave it there. But another thing that this embodies is something called self rule, right? So I am my own master. That's what the result of it is. Another thing that it embodies is no rules, right? So I make my own rules. I don't follow anyone else's rules. I just make my own rules. And that's another thing it embodies. Another thing it embodies is open minds, right? An open mind can be good if you fill it with something, but if you leave your mind open, can be dangerous, right? And then lastly, like I said, the goal of embodiment is collective acceptance, and so it derives self-assurance. Conscious conditioning continuously derives self-assurance from the collective acceptance. There you go. Just some insight for you. Be aware. Be aware of what you filter into your mind and what you put out there into the world. Anyways, thanks for listening. That's what is conscious conditioning. Thanks. Bye.